My name is Pieter, and this is my wife Callista. She's currently pregnant with our second baby. And but today we want to speak about a testimony of our firstborn child, Eben. This little guy here.
Obviously it was my first pregnancy, but the checks went well with the doctors and we had our big checks at 20 weeks and everything was fine. And at 37 weeks we went to the doctor anticipating the birth of our baby, and it was just a checkup. And the doctor said that he couldn't find his stomach, but we weren't too worried because we saw his stomach before, so we knew he had one. And the specialist found that his heart was a little bit displaced, which worried him, so he sent us for an MRI. And at the MRI they found that his organs moved up to his chest where his lungs were supposed to be. And we moved to a different hospital, and that we would have a C-section as soon as possible, where they would put him on machines and try and get him stable for the surgery, which needed to happen as soon as possible. And that was a good weekend for us to just go through everything and just give it to God, because the odds of him surviving birth was also, they prepared us that he might not survive birth and that we would not hold him, they would take him immediately and intubate him, and that he would obviously need massive surgery just after being born. And God just came and restored that so gently and reminded us that it is still his birthday and we will celebrate it for years to come irrespective of the outcome.
So in 3 days he was, the doctors felt he's as stable as he's going to get, so they needed to operate. After the surgery he was quite stable, but then he started developing severe pulmonary hypertension, which is high blood pressure in your lungs. Then his condition started deteriorating, his pressures became very high, up to 7 times higher than normal. But we knew God was with us from the beginning. We just had a lot of faith and so many people praying with us through the journey.
We used the facts a lot to help us as prayer guidelines, so that we held on to that and knew that in the times of great anxiety we could hold on to him, and that he brought consolation, and he really did. In neonatal they also thought we were a bit strange, or we didn't understand his condition because the doctor also asked the one time, do they understand what's wrong? And we had to explain everything to the doctor. And afterwards she said, but how can you be okay? Because at that stage he was critical, and they called the grandparents to come and greet him. And we could really just say it's God, because it's irrespective, God is in control. In the hospital things were a bit up and down, a lot of times critical or getting better, and critical and getting better. And he was on oxygen, 100% oxygen, and machines full of medication they were pumping into him. His bigger lung also collapsed. And we felt that God said before that it's a turning point, it's going to get better from now. So we were so shocked to think, well, this is actually a really big problem, because it's his only strong lung. And God really did a miracle that Sunday, because we let our church know in Pretoria, still in Shofar, Pretoria, and they prayed. And the other people didn't even know yet. But that evening I got so many messages from people all over South Africa, and even in Europe and in America and a lot of countries, where they said tonight our whole church prayed for Eben. And they're really just trusting for full recovery, and they didn't know about his lung collapsing. And he was fine during the night, which we couldn't understand. He was stable, and the next morning when we asked the sisters what is going on, we don't really understand, because the x-rays did show that his lung collapsed. The next morning they couldn't find the hole in his lung, and he was inflated and working, functioning 100%, and they couldn't even find the scar. They couldn't explain it. We were smiling and asking, but how is this possible, to just make sure? And they just said, well, they can't explain it. They know we have x-rays that showed it did collapse, and then x-rays that showed that it seemed like it didn't happen. He was discharged after 101 days. He was in ICU for 98 days of those days. But he's doing so well, and he's recovered amazingly. All the doctors that have met him and seen him have said that he is such a miracle. The sisters afterwards also told us that some of the people said that what would the use be to try and keep him alive, because he might have a lot of brain damage. Today we can really just testify that he is fully functioning, very bright, ahead with his milestones, and so loving, despite him going through so many surgeries and operations and procedures.
We never thought we'd be able to do what to walk this road, but God just provides in so many ways.
I asked God to give me something to hold on to, scripture to hold on to before his surgery. Psalm 94 verse 17 to 19. Unless the Lord had given me help, I would soon have dwelt in the silence of death. When he said my foot is slipping, Your unfailing love, Lord, supported me. When anxiety was great within me, your consolation brought me joy. Eben.